So it's time for another gardening week video, and I am treating myself because I didn't expect to have this bed. This is a bonus bed for this winter, and so it's not in my planting plan. So I'm putting garlic in this bed, and I'm actually giving it a full 9 inches of space. And I've never grown garlic with so much space before. But it just kind of, I don't know, it just feels like it's a nice experiment to run. I normally give it about 6 inches. And so this is quite a significant upgrade for it. I plant it about 2 inches deep, or the other way to think about it is that I plant the tip of the garlic at about 1 inch below the surface. And I'm planting it into this well mulched ground, so it's got a nice mulch of mushroom compost on it, and I'm not giving it any feed because I think this bed is fairly rich already, having just been newly prepared. I will give it some bloodfish and bone in the spring, well maybe spring, March. There's not a lot of point giving it too much feed now because it's not going to do much growing between now and March. It's going to do all the growing through spring. So that's when it's going to need the feed. So anyway, I'll show you the garlic. So here we are. This is the biggest garlic that I grew last year. So I saved this for this year. And I only grow soft necks. So I'm going to break this open. We'll see what we've got. So I generally do it with just my fingers because I don't want to damage the cloves by kind of sticking anything into them. And although the bulbs are big, the cloves themselves are not particularly big, just because you get so many cloves in a soft neck. You know, you get multiple kind of layers of them piled on top of each other. So let's just take a look at one. There's no need really to prepare them. I've seen people do all sorts of things preparing these, like pulling this off, taking the outer skins off, you know, all sorts of things. You know, they grow in nature without any extra preparation. And so, you know, my inclination is always just to leave them to it. And, you know, to date, I've not really regretted doing that. So, here we go. Hopefully you can see those. And obviously, pointy end up, about 1 inch down. So, I'm going to carry on doing this. So there we go. You don't need to be too gentle with them. You don't need to remove all this outer skin. And you just want to make sure that when you're breaking the garlic off from the root, there's a bit of a root there where we've just broken it off. I'm sure it's got some fancy name that gardeners like to use to make everything sound complicated. But yeah, you just break it off like that and just be slightly careful. So there's no race to get your garlic in right now. You know, I'm just doing it just because I had this bed sitting here taunting me empty, and you know, so I just wanted to get it planted because I just had a few spare minutes. And there's also no need to do what I've done, which is to dib these holes. In fact, sometimes if you've got nice soft soil, it's actually better not to dib the holes, and just to gently push your garlic in. But I've done this just so you could see the spacing, and it doesn't hurt. Although I would still recommend that you just push the garlic in just slightly at the bottom there, just to make sure that it doesn't fall over. Although I'm sure it would still grow the right way, even if you did that. So I'm going to carry on doing this. And then because I like working with my hands, I'm just going to rub the compost over and just try and avoid any really big lumps going in there. And because, you know, this is a garden, lots of cats, and they're going to be very tempted by this big empty bed. I'm going to put a little bit of a net over it. So I've just finished clearing this bed of early parsnips, and I'm squeezing in a lot of things from the beet family, and I'm planting them, you know, really densely because I only want them for baby leaves. So I'm trying to sort of suppress the growth a little bit through tight planting. And I've never tried this before, so we'll see, you know, how well it works. But my objective is to have, you know, a nice crop of baby leaves in winter. And I'll talk you through the different varieties that I've got as I go. But I'm doing a 7x7 matrix here, which, as I say, is really tight. And this bed has got, quite, like everything this year, quite a lot of slugs in it. I can see them already, just like working their way around the bed. Sorry, but you've got to go. I've done a lot of planting this week. I'll show you it a bit later on. And I'm not happy with it. It's just been a terrible month for me. You know, everything's gone wrong really. Like the weather has just been completely wrong for September. Way too warm, but actually not that bright for quite a lot of it. You know, and high heat and not much light, partly due to my fault because of where I've been growing things, but also just partly because it's just been warm weather. Yeah, too much heat, not enough light, means leggy, weak seedlings. I'm not happy with them. But I think they'll grow through it. I think they'll be okay. So I've been using up a lot of old seeds, and as you can see, they're kind of a bit weak and feeble, but you know, I think they'll be better in the ground than in the polytunnel on the shelf. So this first one is a beetroot, Albina white beetroot, that is renowned for its lovely leaves. Well, that's what I want it for. So we will have a go. So the next one is Ford Hook, you know, the big green-leafed one. And actually, I haven't got very many of these because the germination was pretty bad. So I'm not going to have quite enough to fill this bed, which is always extremely annoying for me because I don't really like a partially filled bed. And I should really have checked before I started dibbing the holes. And the next one, germination's pretty good on this one. This is white silver. I'm struggling to get these out. And then the next one is bull's blood, which is one of my favourites, which is a really dark leafed beetroot. Again, grown mainly for the leaves, which is what we're doing here. And I've got a lot of those just because they're so good. And then the final one's just a ruby chard. So again, just everything that I can find that's in the beet family that I had going spare. So right now, everywhere that I have a gap, I'm just putting salad onions in. These are North Holland Blood Red, and yeah, I don't like to have any wasted space. So we'll come back in a week or so and we'll see how these are doing. I normally do a better job than this. So now I'm just going to clear this old pepper bed because I want to get some spinach planted in here. And I've already taken all the ripe peppers off this bed this weekend, but I mean some of them are still going to ripen probably. So there's not much left in here really, but it was still worth leaving it in for a few more weeks. Yeah, there's another one. It's going to ripen there. And this is my penultimate pepper bed. I've got one left, which I can leave for quite a long time because I don't need it. In fact, I'm taking it out to plant some trees. There's a few turnips in there as well. I think that's most of them. Oh no, this one's got quite a few on it. So, yeah, I always get a reasonable harvest on days when I'm clearing beds. Sometimes quite unexpectedly so. So get these turnips out now. That's not many. For some reason, I haven't had much luck with turnips maturing this year. Again, maybe it's just the weather. You can always blame the weather, can't you, as a gardener? There we go. It's worth putting them in, but not much. So I'm really pleased to see almost no mare's tail in this bed, which, you know, that's kind of a minor miracle really. I have noticed actually that this year has been the year when it finally seems like the endless pulling out of mare's tail has started to pay off. So next year will be my 8th year growing on this plot, and it's taken 8 years to get the mare's tail under control. It's still not gone, but in this bed at least, not a lot here, which is fantastic, and that probably means this is going to end up being a bed where I can grow carrots. I don't have that many beds where I can grow carrots because of the mare's tail. So yeah, I really don't like carrots and mare's tail. They just don't mix, you know, because you just have to keep on opening the nets up so often to weed. But this is looking pretty good. So because this is going to be a carrot bed next year, I'm just going to give this now a bit of blood, fish and bone and a little bit of hoof and horn, and then I won't feed it again when I put the carrots in, but I will mulch it now with some well rotted cow manure, which hopefully will break down nicely before I have to put the carrots in. And I always give them, these beds are really good water You know, they need sort of 4 or 5 watering cans after a dry summer with their tops closed, because the peppers have got nice steep roots, so they've been fine, but there's no water in the sort of top 6 inches or so of these beds. I always like to just tamp these beds down after I've removed the roots. I don't always remove roots, sometimes I'll leave them in, but you know, if you're planting something densely like spinach, I prefer to take the roots out, they just get in the way. And I've never noticed a difference between a bed where I've left the roots in and a bed where I've taken them out. It's just easier to leave them in sometimes. But this bed, as I say, will be spinach, and then it'll be carrots, and probably, if all goes well, it'll be purple sprouting broccoli after that. So it's going to earn its keep next year. So now I just need to shuffle these covers around. So this cover is eventually going to be over the field beans to keep the leaves off them. But for now I've just popped it over those strawberries. Field beans are going to go here where these beetroot are, and you can already see the amount of leaves that are just starting to drop, and there's a huge amount more that are going to drop off the trees and completely smother the field beans. And you know, if they get all smothered with leaves, they get loads of slugs and snails and everything there, and basically it's a disaster. So I need to cover them until all these leaves have fallen, then I can tidy all the leaves up and leave them to it. Now this bed needs a cover, and so I think I'm going to give it the low tunnel that's over this bed, because this bed, spinach, doesn't need a low tunnel. The cold frame top will be fine. So one of the things I wish I'd done differently when I designed this plot was put in a proper solution for holding these low tunnels open. At the moment they just lean up against this post, which is fine on a beautiful calm day like today, but on a windy day in winter they are deadly because they can just come swinging back on top of you. So cold frame tops are so much better here. Oh, some of these tunnels are so heavy. Some of them I've made lightweight, and then others a bit more robust, but whew, not very awkward to carry. The beauty of these tunnels in these locations is they all fold back on each other, so it makes it really easy to open them up. So the spinach that's going in this bed is Giant Winter, and I'm going to do it 6x5, and as I probably mentioned before way too many times, this spacing is only suitable for spinach that's really going to be harvested in winter and early spring, very early spring. Once the spinach really gets going in winter proper, sorry, in spring proper, that spacing would be far too close, and the plants would really kind of interfere with each other. But this is quite a late planting of spinach. The plants are going to stay, you know, fairly modest in size because they're going to be picked harvested. Leaves are going to be harvested off them every week from sort of November onwards probably, and as a result, you know, you can afford to put them in quite close together, and you know, they won't suffer as a result. So this spinach is 3 weeks old. I like to put it in about 3 weeks old, and there's in the main 2 seedlings per module, and I just generally sort of push it into the holes. You don't need to be too gentle with it, it's pretty robust, this spinach. But if you can be careful, you might as well be, because it doesn't really take very much more effort. I think so much success in gardening is down to good bed prep. So I work quite hard to make sure that my beds are weed free prior to planting, well fertilised, well watered, and then you can pretty much leave the plants to it, if all goes well. One thing about spinach is it does tend to get tangled up with its neighbours, which can be a bit frustrating. I've got details in my ebook showing how to make these cold frames and cold frame tops and everything, if you want to have a look at those. And I'll show you in a second just how convenient it is to open this cold frame up by comparison with that low tunnel, as I said, which can be just a little bit deadly. So here we are with the last harvest table, probably with summer veggies on it. Maybe we'll scrape a few little bits and pieces, but yeah, anyway, done the storage beetroot harvest, so there's just a few samples of storage beetroot, and from now most of the beetroot will be harvested from the store, but we've still got these little ones in the ground, so we'll be picking those until the end of the year, fresh from the ground. Still picking a few of the grotty Brussels sprouts. I'll be pleased to get onto the really good ones, but they taste fine. Gorgeous kale leaves and Colette leaves. Actually, most of those are Colette leaves. You can tell from that beautiful purpley red rib. And cooking spinach. I'm just a bit low on spinach so far this year, because I lost a bed, went to seed early on me, but I'm catching up slowly. Apples, these are the last, I think, of the apples that I'm putting into store. I'm not actually putting that one into store though, but those are going into store, and they should last us until the end of the year. And then these are just ones that we're eating fresh each week. We've got loads of those. Last of the green peppers. Last of the pears, these are Williams. We've had Invincible as well, which look a bit more like that one. And yeah, we've had Conference and Concord. Yeah, I'm taking a kale bed out, making a little patio area. And so I've picked all of this super tender. Can you tell how tender that is? Absolutely gorgeous kale, so I'll be looking forward to that. I only really like kale when it's really tender like that. And we bagged up some stuff that's not so tender to give away. So that's a sample bag, and yeah, that's for people who juice basically, and they don't really care how tender it is. Last of the summer carrots, so looking a bit rough, but they'll clean up okay. And last of the early parsnips, so on to the main crop parsnips now. Yeah, garlic, onions and stuff from the store, potatoes from the store. These are all the peppers that we've got that are just showing a hint of ripening. So there's a chance that they'll ripen up. They probably won't, because they'll probably go soft before they're fully ripe. But they're going in the freezer anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. And then we've got, this is the kale that's tougher. So, you know, like the other stuff was silent. Can you tell the difference? Anyway, I can tell the difference. Tatsoi, the first proper pick of the colettes. So I love colettes. They're my favourite, probably one of my favourite brassicas. But also in there somewhere, there are little red cabbages and little sort of side shoots off the cauliflowers and things. And then everything else is salads. So salad onions, salad rocket, claytonia, salad spinach, and lettuce bases. So I'm just going to make those up now. And that is the full table for the week. So it's looking pretty good. I don't know what it's going to look like next week when a lot of this summer stuff isn't going to be here and autumn production isn't really in full swing yet. You know, because I've only just started replanting things. So we might have a bit of a dip next week, which, well, I always hope to avoid, but we'll see how we get on. So anyway, hope you like this quick video. My name's Steve. This is the Seaside Kitchen Garden and Allotment channel, and I'll see you soon.